Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Chit-Chat Tuesday. I'm so delighted to have psychic medium Craig Morris here this evening. I'm just going to do a little bit of an introduction to Craig and welcome you when you start to appear. So first of all, what was really interesting is that Craig's original career was in the airlines and wanting to build up into being a pilot. However, it's after seeing a medium after Craig lost his granddad that he became really interested in the spirit field. And it was actually his first medium that he saw that recommended that he actually take this up and could see that potential in him. So moving on a couple of years, it was Jeanette and Tim Abbott that Craig worked with. And if you go to his website, you can see how much he thanks them. And then later on, it was during a live show that they come across he met up with the late Derek Okora and Reverend Colin Fry. And amazingly, and it's brilliant, that Craig had the opportunity of working alongside Colin Fry during his very last tour, his Sixth Sense celebration tour. So I'm really delighted to introduce Craig at the moment. And if you watch Craig, you know how wonderful he is at connecting with people, has a great philosophy on life. So please welcome him. And thank you for saying hello. So is there anything I've missed out that you want to say there?
No, you've
Craig?
pretty much covered it. Yeah, no, it's all good. It's quite an introduction. So yeah, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you all and everybody that's joining us. Good evening. So yeah, it's great to be here.
Just going to say hello to Anne, to Leda, Donna, and Anne's here again. And as you arrive, I'll be saying hello to you and hello to the silent watchers as well. Oh, Cowabunga, hello to you. I've got Lee going right across the screen, which is just blocking people's names at the moment. So brilliant, Craig. If you can just go into when you first had that reading with the first medium, and they said they could see that potential in you to become a good medium. Were you jumping at the opportunity, or were you still thinking at that time, no, I want to really have my career become that pilot and work in the airlines? What was going through your mind?
Well, so on the day of I should say as well, it was our neighbour at the time, Alvin, who recommended for me to go and see this lovely lady, Lorraine, up in Hensford. And excuse me, and she introduced me and everything. So I booked this reading, and it was a Friday afternoon about 4 o'clock. On the way to the reading, I actually stopped off at the cemetery, Great Worley Cemetery, which is where my nan and granddad are buried. And anyway, whilst I was in there, and I just stood at the end of the grave, and I just, in through thought, I just said, "I'm going to be, you know where I'm going to be, you know what time I'm going to be there. Just come through, let me know you're okay, and let me know that you're together." And anyway, just as I was about to leave, there's a really old gravestone, and the lady the lady's name is Edna Amy, and her age was 23 years old, I believe, when she died, or 19 years old, and she died in 1923. And I just stood there, don't know what made me do it, and I just said, right, if this is real, if this whole thing of the afterlife is real, you will come through and say hello today. That's all I want you to do. Just pop in and say hello. Got to Lorraine's house, sat down, and she said to me, she goes, "I have your nan and granddad here." I was like, okay, here we go. So in my mind, I'm thinking, just go on, tell me more, tell me more. And then she mentioned one or two other people who I saw. Yeah, okay. And she goes, but before I carry on, she goes, "Who is Edna?" I went, "Huh?" She went, "Who's Edna?" She goes, "Literally, this lady has popped in." She said, "Tell him it's Edna, and I'm here to say hello." And she's gone again. I was like, okay, you've got me. And that was it. And then everything else just followed nicely through the reading. And then, of course, as you said there, she then told me that I was going to be I wanted to do this, and then that I was going to be doing this for a living. In in all honesty, I only wanted to be able to make the link with the spirit world, to be able to connect to my granddad. Selfishly as that might sound, I only wanted to talk to my granddad. Wasn't fussed about giving readings or anything like that. But hey, never say never. And I carried on flying for a little while, but yeah, it just wasn't meant to be. And well, here we are. The rest is history. So when she told me, naturally I was buzzing, but then I also thought, really, is it going to happen? Well, here we are.
And later on, we've also got I've got a video which is taken from Craig's YouTube, just a little clip, about an 8-minute clip of Craig working platformers. I thought it'd be brilliant to show because it really is fantastic. A few more people have come on, so I want to say
Cool.
hello to Steve, Claire, Kelly, Patricia. I think that's the extra people that have come on. If I've missed anybody, I really do apologise because the numbers are more than up at the side at the moment. So it's difficult to always keep tracks of people as it goes up. So you started and continued then your spiritual journey with Jeanette and Tim. Can you tell me how you got in contact with them and what was it they gave you? Because I think when I was reading on your site, they also gave you the confidence to go out
Yeah.
and perform. So you can tell about them, please.
Yeah, so Tim and Jeanette made a huge impact on my development. So my very first spiritualist church that I ever set foot in was Stafford Spiritualist Church. It's a beautiful place, beautiful church, and I sat initially in like a basic awareness circle, and then there was a couple of open day. There was an open day that I attended at Stafford Church, and whilst I was there was a medium who I'd become friendly with because I'd seen him a few times do services, really enjoyed it. And he said to me, because we got on the conversation about sitting in circle, and I said, I'm trying to find a circle that'll suit. And he said, have you met Jeanette before? I was like, no. He said, let me introduce you. So I spoke to Jeanette, and she said to me, she goes, we've got what they call an exponents course starting, held at Walsall Spiritualist Church every Wednesday, 3-year course. And we take you through the various exercises, and there's also, of course, the history of spiritualism and everything you need to know really to prepare you for the platform. And it was whilst I started that course, within the first few weeks, Jeanette then invited me into her closed circle. And I just remember Tim saying to me, he goes, it's an opportunity, take it. And I sat in that circle for years. And some weeks it would be just Jeanette as it was her circle. But then some weeks, if Tim was at home, he would join us as well. And the thing was that with Tim and Jeanette, they have this, they can just see everybody's potential, and what they do is they make everybody comfortable, and they also they push you and they push you and they push you, and you just think, I can't do this, but then somehow they just push you past that threshold where it's like, I've got it, in the sense of that's where the confidence comes in. But one thing that they, and still do now, I'm still very good, dear friends with them, is that they kept you grounded. They always made sure you never forgot where you come from. So even though you might go out there and do well, it's like, remember where you come from, remember that circle, remember that group. So they were just brilliant. So not only were they great tutors, but since then they've also become very good friends as well. And I remember being at Stafford Church, and Jeanette had a day's workshop booked in, and they basically doubled the numbers. So what they did was they brought Tim in. So in the morning I was sat with Jeanette, and in the afternoon I'd be sat with Tim. And I didn't really know Tim at this point. And it sounds really bad. So Tim just happened to watch. I'm sorry, Tim, I'm saying this, but it's the truth. But I sat there and I thought, I don't want to sit with Tim. I don't really know him. I just want to sit with Jeanette. And the afternoon came, sat with Tim, and I just sat there. And there was a lady I was sat reading for, and her father came through and doing some remote viewing and what I could see and everything. And Tim just walked past, stopped, come back again, pulled up a chair and sat next to the lady. And he said, right, do this, do this, do this, and do this. And all of a sudden, I'm giving road names. I'm giving names of pubs, names of the loved ones that have come through, taking them back to their childhood memories. And I just thought, this just blew my mind. I was like, how on earth is this coming through? And yeah, from there, as I say, that's where the confidence came in as well. So yeah, they've made certainly a big impact there for me.
Brilliant. There's a few more names. And Jackie Hello said you frozen guys. So it looks okay on here, but if other people can comment if we're moving or frozen, or if you can hear us, that would be very good. Like to say, I think I say hello to Kelly, Jackie, Lorna, Claire, Susan are some names that are coming up. And if I missed anybody, I do apologise. So that's really good that they pushed you to do that. And then it was, somebody said fine here. Steve said it's fine here. Hello, Steve. And then later on, you met up with the late Derek Core and the late Reverend Colin Fry, and you introduced yourself to them afterwards. How was that for you, sort of meeting them? Because I know that sometimes people just kind of like, I mean, everybody's just friendly. I've always found that, but some people are always a little bit shy and nervous about doing those things. And it was so wonderful to hear that the late Reverend Colin Fry actually really welcomed you in and gave again you a lot of confidence and really helped you on your path as well. So you can tell about that first interaction and what it led to would be amazing, please.
So I first met Colin in Birmingham, and I was working in a call centre, and myself and two friends who I call Betty and who else was it? Sarah. The three of us, we booked to go and see Colin in Birmingham. And anyway, whilst we were there, I had the opportunity to, as everybody did, he would always stay behind after a demonstration, and he'd sort of speak to people, meet them and everything, sign books and all that. And I bought his new book, so we went there, said a quick hello, and he also knew Tim and Jeanette as well. So we had that conversation, and anyway, after that, I then went to see him a few more times, and every time I always used to go and see him, there was always in the second part of his demonstration after the interval, he always gave people the opportunity to ask questions, and I took every opportunity to ask a question. And I remember being, blimey, I saw him in, as I say, Birmingham, then saw him in Tamworth, saw him in, where else did we see him? Cannock, loads of places. And every time I'd ask a question. The one time we were in Wolverhampton at Waltham Hall. There's probably, 600 people, 700 people maybe that night. Excuse me. And so as soon as he offered up the opportunity for a question, I threw my hands up, and he just stopped in front of everybody and just said, "Oh, Craig," he said, "Hey, did I know you were going to ask me a question?" And he said, "Right, Craig, stand up." And he said, "Right, everybody, this is Craig. Craig, this is everybody." He said, "Now, everybody, lots of you sent me messages and emails asking if I can do private readings. Very, very rarely can I offer them in person, away from home. But what I can tell you is that this young man, when I was young at that time anyway, does offer private readings, and I can definitely recommend him. So I'm sure Craig's got cards on him, so feel free to get his details and book him in for a sitting." And then he went straight on to say, "Right, Craig, you had a question." So asked the question, that was it. We chatted again afterwards. And then it was when the real turning point for me was Monday, the 10th of November, 2014. I resigned from my full-time job and thought, I'm just going to give this a go with my mediumship full-time. I resigned from my job. My contract ended there and then, pretty much. I flew to Glasgow to watch Colin and Derek do a joint demonstration at the Pavilion Theatre. And at the end, they're doing book sign. I mean, there was 1,600, 2,000 people there that night, however many it can hold. And Colin stood next to Derek. He just leant on his shoulder and he said, "Right, see this bloke here?" Pointing at me, and he said, "Yeah." He said, "Watch him." He said, "Because he's one to watch for. He's up and coming." And it was only earlier on in the day that I'd realised that we were all staying in the same hotel. So at the end of that, we had a chat, and he said, "Are you going to join us for a drink?" Absolutely. So I'm sat there. Derek sat in front of me there. Colin sat here along with a crew. And the only way I could describe it to my family was, it was almost like being sat with like the David Beckham and Stephen Gerrard of mediumship. Really, it's the only way I could describe it to get the point across. And Colin actually said to me that night, he said, "Did you enjoy the demonstration? Fabulous, loved it, lovely night." He said, "Great." He said, "I'm pleased to hear." He said, "No, you won't know this." He said, "But I've actually had people out watching you in your demonstration." He said, "I'm like what I'm hearing." He said, "So, how do you feel about joining me as a guest medium on my tour next year?" I went, "Absolutely." My mouth just sort of hit the floor, and yeah, and that was it. And I think it was about what, blimey, I think it was the week after, perhaps maybe the week after ish, 2 weeks after, I got a message from his management saying, come along to the theatre in Crewe, bring us suits, you're guesting in the second half. I was like, huh? And then that was it. So Crewe was the very first opportunity, and then of course from there went on to tour with him up and down the country, also abroad, Spain, Gibraltar. Fabulous opportunities that he gave me, and of course opened the door for me because being seen with somebody like Colin gave me that opportunity to be seen by a bigger audience, and of course helped get my name out there that bit more.
Absolutely amazing. That was really nice of him that he was so supportive throughout as well. Some people said there's a little bit of crackling. I don't know if it's your earbuds, the microphone just tapping against the. Yeah, it's not
That's
too
what I
bad,
thought
but
it was.
yeah, just a little bit. I just could see people sort of mentioning it,
That's
so I
okay.
just thought I'd give it a mention. So you said about Colin Fry and sign a book. Now you've got a book
Yes.
out, and I heard yesterday, because I watched you yesterday, that probably going to have to order some more books in because they're selling well. Have you got one next to you that you can show people and let people know how you can get hold of your books?
Yeah, so basically, can you still hear me, by the way? Because I've taken these bits. Right, that's fine.
Yeah.
I think that's better because I was getting the crackling, so hopefully that'll stop. Yeah, so basically, I published my first book last year, so here for a good time, not a long time. And the best place to go really is on my website. So I'm sure I can pop the link up somewhere in a minute. But yeah, if you go to my website, on there, on the shop page, you can order it. And yeah, so basically, you can go there, order it, and it's a bit about obviously my journey and other things in there. But the other good thing about it is that not many people tend to put too much into their sort of spiritual books, if you like, of photos and pictures and stuff. So when I talk about the people that I work with from the spirit world, like my nan, my granddad, they're in there, the whole journey, I mean, I've kind of abbreviated on, the questions you've asked so far, but the full shebang is in there. So yeah, so if anybody would like a copy, go to my website and you'll be able to get yourself a copy, no problem.
Fantastic. I mean, Kelly has sort of mentioned here that she would love a reading. Now, I know you do card readings, which I saw last night on your Facebook page.
Yes.
So how often do you do these Facebook lives? I mean, is it a regular thing? And usually I say later when people get in contact, but as this is it said now at the moment, I thought I'd be an ideal opportunity to ask how people can get in contact with you for a reading.
Yeah, so with regards to the live feeds, yeah, to be honest, I tend to do them as and when I can. When it's the early part of the year, I don't tend to travel as much. So I tend to be working from home more. So usually, certainly in January, you tend to find that I'll go live once a week. So it's really just when I'm at home. So when I've got the opportunity to go online, I'll go online. And the one thing is, I'm always conscious because I know I've got other friends that go online at the same time or sort of like throughout the week. So I'm always conscious that I'm not going on at the same time as them because we have some of the same followers. So it's really just as and when, but I always try and give people as much notice as possible. So yeah, the best thing to do is just keep your eye on my social media page because that's where I post it first about being live. So that'll be the best place to look. With regards to private readings, yes. So what I always say to people is, even though I use the cards on my live feeds, I do have them when I'm doing private readings, but predominantly being a medium, I connect and I work with the spirit world more so. So very rarely will I use the cards in a private reading when you do come to me. unless I get drawn to them. And sometimes, the person I'm reading for asks for that as well. So I'll just throw that in. But again, the best thing to do with regards to private readings, I believe now we're sort of going towards the end of September for booking for sittings at the minute. So if you just go to my website again, use the contact us page, and on there, either Claire or Julie can send you all the details and give you everything you need to know, the available dates and times and all that sort of thing.
Fantastic. Yeah, Kelly said, can you please get Craig to send me a link because I've dyslexia. Kelly, that's okay. I have dyslexia too, so I might not read all the questions out in exactly the same way, but either myself or we'll make sure that comes to you, Kelly, anyway afterwards. So that will be all really, really good. So yeah, you say, well, I've seen your videos, some really nice uplifting words as well throughout it, and I know that people seeing a medium gives a lot of healing, and also as well with your work, and particularly if you go to one of your platforms, there can be a lot of laughter as well, which is brilliant, and I think that's so wonderful to have laughter. What can you say to those people that aren't really sensitive, and it's when they're at home, say 11 o'clock at night or even later, and thoughts come back in, they start to miss someone that has passed away? What can people do for themselves, because in that situation, to maybe kind of feel a little bit more of a connection with their loved ones?
Good question. For me, I always say to people that your loved ones will show you a sign, probably more signs than what you actually even realise. And we've just been on the road for the last couple of weeks. It's been quite busy, and again, we're back out on the road tomorrow. But and quite often people come up to me after a demonstration and they say, I get this at home, or I get this sound, I get this noise, or whatever it might be. And they're like, and I know who it is. And I'm like, that's music to my ears, that is. Because when somebody tells me who isn't a medium, and they say themselves that they're not sensitive, for me, there's nothing more magical than hearing that for their own validation. What I would say to people is, excuse me, what I would say to people is, sometimes just by sitting and if you're in the quiet, maybe light yourself a candle, just and maybe some nice sort of chilled music in the background, just send up a thought. Because for me, your loved ones really are simply a thought away, and a thought for me is a conversation. So, when I've done it many times when I've sat and I'm like, do you know what I could just do with being in the company of my granddad, for example, just come and sit with me, and all of a sudden I sit, and I don't sort of think of anything. I just let the mind go quiet. I don't think of anything, clear the mind. And then usually within a few minutes, for some people it might be longer, but for some, it might be quicker. Certainly for me, something that I've done many times now, of course. So I send up that thought. I'm like, come and join me. And you know what? Sometimes we're looking for signs that maybe the spirit world aren't giving to us, but we're missing signs that they are. So, for example, you might be at home, and all of a sudden a song comes into your mind, just out of the blue. A song comes into your mind, and it's like, that song reminds me of so and so, or that takes me back to that memory, or you might get a smell, or a song, or whatever it might be. And for me, that is a sign of your loved ones, letting you know that they're around. So that's why I always say, look out for the little things as well. But that's what I would do, is just to sort of sit in the quiet and just allow them to drift close to you, is what I would say.
Lovely. I must say hello to Sam, who's also joined. Hello to you, Sam. Thanks for joining us. So what are some of the and one of the things which I've noticed personally happened to myself, and also as well, I also understand that maybe there's certain people can talk about. So if it's difficult, then please let me know. But quite often, some mediums will say something to me when I've gone to see one, and I can't think what that is, and it's when I've asked family afterwards, go, oh yeah, that and that. What sort of things, is there any sort of really sort of cool stories that you've heard either through yourself or another medium where because when you go to one of these platforms, the people that go away afterwards, they don't see that extra validation that comes through afterwards. So have you got any particular stories like that?
So there was somebody that came to see me for a private reading, and I worked with this. Oh, actually, there's another one. Actually, there's a couple that I can share, and so she came and sat with me for a reading, and as I say, it was somebody that I used to work with years ago, and this was the first opportunity I'd ever had. I hadn't seen her for a few years, and we sat there, and it was lovely. Her grandmother came through and made a lovely connection, and it was just nice because, you know, she was able to go down memory lane with her nan. Anyway, towards the end, I said to her, I said, your nan keeps on telling me to tell you congratulations. And she was like, right, okay. And I said, and for me, what I'm getting with that is that there's been an announcement of a new arrival. And she went, not me. I said, no, never said it was. Although I said to her, I said, it just feels like it's close to home. And she said, no, definitely not me. I've got two. That is plenty. So I'm like, that's fine. She goes, it's my friend. She goes, my friend's just had a baby. And I'm like, no, it's not that. I said, I'm not changing it. Remember, I said it. So anyway, we finished off the reading. It was lovely. And then about 3 or 4 weeks later, she then messaged me. She goes, Craig, she goes, you have to please carry on doing what you're doing. I said, why? She said, because after I left, she goes, within a couple of days, she said, I had to check. And she said, it turns out that, yes, I'm expecting. And she says, when I sat with you, I knew she was like 3 or 4 or however many weeks pregnant she was. And she didn't even know. But her grandmother came through and told her. But she didn't believe it until, of course, she got the validation for herself. So for me, it's just, that for me is a beautiful thing. So that was all good. And there was another time where, it always seems to be with babies, there was another time where I was doing a demonstration at a theatre, and there was this lady who was having a reading, and she brought about, I don't know, there's got to have been about 8 of them altogether, maybe 10 even, and they were all sort of towards the back. And as I was working with the one who was having this message, I said to her, I said, I can't remember who it was that came through, but let's just say it was her nan as well. I said, your nan, again, is coming through and saying congratulations, or she's saying whatever it might be. I said, there's been an announcement of a new arrival. And she went, I understand that. I said, okay, no problem. And so, you know, as we carried on, and as I was carrying on, some of her friends, her one friend looked down and laughed, and then a couple of the others were sort of like sniggering as if to say, do you know something or what? Anyway, as I finished the message, she said, thank you, Craig, appreciate that. And I said, oh, it's all good, no problem. She said, and straight away at that, she turned around and she goes, yes, it's me. I'm expecting. And that's how she took, only one of her friends that she was sat with knew, but all the others didn't. And that's how they found out in like an auditorium full of other people, which I thought was fabulous. So, you know, for me, the spirit world have a real way of, you know, and, you know, you talk about that sometimes when you do go and see a medium, there are things that you don't know or you can't say until afterwards, and you can't get that validation until afterwards, because quite rightly, there can be so much information, so much evidence that comes through that sometimes, I mean, even me, I still have to make notes, and I still have to go to my parents and say, what was this, and all of that to get the validation for myself. So I understand that, you know, sometimes we have to go back. And for me, it's always when people message you afterwards and say, Craig, yeah, thank you for that. I've had this validated. It is this, it is that. And I have it so often. And for me, it's brilliant. I just wished I could share them all. But of course I can't because it's always private. But it's just fabulous. And I think the one that has always stuck in my mind, I was in Harlow and I was doing a demonstration at a theatre there with a very dear friend, Rebecca Sawyer, who goes by Bex. Who some people may know on here, fabulous medium. And we were doing a part where we were almost like doing double links type of thing. And as we were working, there was somebody that came through, and this lady, well, 2 ladies, mother and daughter, and the daughter was taking the information. She went, yes. I went, he's telling me to say congratulations. She went, I understand that. I said, and I kind of got the feeling as though, don't say nothing, but she'll understand. So I said, and I know that it's closely connected to yourself. She went, yep. Left it at that, and at the end of the demonstration, her mum came over to me and she said, so can you tell me any more about that then? I went, no. I said, I'm sorry, I'm out of the energy now. I said, oh, sorry, it's gone. And she said, okay, no problem. 10 minutes later, she came up to me. She says, I just want to say thank you. I said, why is that? She goes, my daughter's just told me she's pregnant and expecting a baby. I went, fabulous. I said, but it wasn't for me to tell you. I said, it's down to your daughter. So, it's just brilliant. I love it. So, yeah, there's probably loads of others that I just can't think of right now either. But, but yeah, it's brilliant. I love it. I love it.
It's nice to hear that. I must get Claire's comment, and also as well, if anybody has anything they want to ask Craig, just please ask, because it's your opportunity to ask him. So Claire says, my uncle passed away recently, and my landing light started flickering for a couple of days on and off. On Friday, his funeral song "Daddy Cool" started playing on the radio. What are the chances? That's really good. So I think that a lot of people tend to sort of think, typically when our loved ones try and come through, bangs and taps. You mentioned a couple of things earlier, but what are some of the other signs that we may be just thinking, oh, that's just something, and it's really our loved ones trying to get through to us?
Yeah, sometimes it's just a thought. If you're excuse me, if you're at home pottering around and you're whatever you're doing, cooking, cleaning, whatever it may be, sometimes, and I put this out to everybody that's watching tonight, but how often when you're at home does a loved one that's passed come into your mind? How often does that happen? Because for me, that is also another way of your loved ones letting you know that they're around. At the end of the day, why wouldn't they? My brother called me the other day, and they had a baby last year, little Lenny, and he's just gorgeous. But of course, my nan and granddad aren't here to sort of see him in the physical, but we know that they're around in the spiritual sense. And my brother called me last week, and he said, do you ever pick up anything when you're on the phone, like to anybody? I went, sometimes, yeah. And he said, okay, fair enough. He said, don't suppose you get anything, are you? And straight away, I just said to him, I said, has Lenny, the little one, I said, has he like sort of been looking sort of away in just a direction as though he's staring at somebody? And at that, he looked at his wife, my sister-in-law, as if to say, that's the one. He went, who is it? Straight away at my nan. Straight away, it was my nan. And for me, it was just brilliant. For me, that's also something else. And quite often, little ones, that are babies, are susceptible to it, and it's brilliant. And in fact, we say that. And a friend of mine, Jodie, she let me write a story in here because and I'll abbreviate it, but so her daughter, she was changing her one night at home, getting her ready for bed, and she kept on waving. Her daughter did, and Jodie was like, "Who are you waving at?" And she went, "Nanny," and she was like, "Huh?" And like she said her name as well. She went, and Jodie said, "Well, what is she wearing?" And she told her exactly what the grandmother was wearing that she was wearing in her coffin. But of course, the little one wouldn't have known that. She wouldn't have known. And she was like, well, what is she doing? She goes, she's just staring at you, smiling. And I think, you know what, when you hear things like that, it gives me shivers. It's fabulous. I love it. I love it. So, yeah.
It is. There's several. I'm going to go through these questions that I've got. I'm going to start with Sam, then go to Kelly, and I'm going to recheck some other ones as well. So first of all, Sam says, not heard signs for a while from my beautiful little boy Harley. I'm worried he's forgotten me. I guess that's a fear and worry from a lot of people, that they get signs and then it starts to go. So I know that Harley wouldn't have forgotten you, but I'll leave it for Craig to answer.
Yeah. definitely not forgotten you at all. Definitely not. At the end of the day, as your little boy, you're his mom. Why would he want to be anywhere else? For me, you know, there'll be other people that have passed, I'm sure, from your family. You know, we've lost children in our family as well, but I know my nan will be there looking after them. So I know that loved ones that have gone before us will be taking care of the children that have gone from this side of life, as we say, far too early. But no, definitely not. And what I would say to you is, again, remember what I said earlier about sending up a thought. Just know, you know, they really are a thought away. And I read for a lady a few years ago now, before the lockdown, and she sat there in front of me, and her father came through, her dad came through, lovely message, and she said to me at the end, she goes, "Thank you for that, Craig." She goes, "I've waited 29 years for that message from my dad." I went, "Huh?" And she said, "Why is it taking that long?" I said, "I have no idea, no idea." You know, and I even say now, even though I've been doing this for as long as I have been, there are still I still don't know all the answers. You know, I'm sure I've got so much more to experience yet. But yeah, I can definitely tell you categorically that your boy has definitely not forgotten about you.
Yeah, just absolutely. I know you wouldn't have. Kelly, I have a question. Every time I got to my cousin's driver, always, do you know what does it mean, Craig Powell? So, am I reading that wrong? Because I did say I was dyslexic. Let me try this one. Which okay.
Every time I'm not
Oh,
sure. Every
no.
every time that I go to my cousins, driver always. I'm not sure what you mean, Kelly. I
Yeah,
have to be honest.
if you can clarify a bit, Clay, that would be good. And Craig will answer best. I see Robins everywhere watching me. I always think it's my friend. Yeah, I
Absolutely,
think so.
absolutely. It's another quite often where even where we live now. There's a robin. Well, there's a couple of robins that we see flying around, and we were just in the garden the other day, and of course it's been glorious. And in the garden, it was just sat there, sort of, you know, had never flinched or anything. And you know, and of course, birds usually go anywhere near them and they're off, but it just didn't move at all. Wayne and myself walked past, nothing, just wouldn't, nothing. So
I sometimes get smell scents that come to me. I've certainly smelt perfume, which has smelt similar to my grandma's when she passed. So, yeah, that happens. Let's see if there's any
definitely.
more. Lorraine, or you just know that that certain song is going to play on the radio, or that you're going to hear it somewhere. Yeah, I can have that as well. Oh, Paul is here. Hello, Paul. Oh yeah, and because I didn't say that, Sam says thank you, so I know that will give a lot of comfort to Sam. Sam's wonderful. She really is. Kelly said earlier she always gets an itchy nose when she gets to her
Yeah,
husband.
it says it. Yeah.
Yeah. So Kelly said, sorry, my phone was playing up. Let's have a look at those.
There we go.
The question. So it might be just that the cousins, it's just like an itchy nose or something like that.
So every time I go to my cousin's grave, I have an itchy nose. You know, quite often there's a friend of mine, and he works again doing what I do, or shall I say, I do what he does. He's been doing it for 40 years, and quite often you see him when he works, and he tends to do this. And sometimes it happens with me, and I watch other mediums, and sometimes it does happen. And you know, one thing, if anybody was watching my live last night, you may have noticed. I mean, I know I'm doing it now, but that's because I've got a tickly throat. However, what I would and what I do say is, when I'm working, usually I always have to apologise in advance to people that when I come to coughing, because it just tends to be my little telltale sign that I'm there and I'm ready. So once I start coughing, bump, I then know. So literally, and that's what it's like all the way through a demonstration. But so yeah, so for some there are different signs. So yeah, that could just be yours. Absolutely.
Hello to Soldier, who's just joined us on YouTube. Patricia, I often hear my name being called when I'm in the church alone. Yeah,
Brilliant.
do you find there's a lot of spirits in churches, Craig, at all?
I mean, certainly when I'm working, definitely. But I think when we were at a theatre in Burnham-on-Sea just recently, and we were in this little dressing room, and there was a like a screen, a TV monitor in there, and what it showed you was the stage. And then at the side of the stage there was another one, and on there I just noticed that there was a couple of orbs, and Wayne, the hubby, he turned around and went, "No, it's just dust." I went, "I'm telling you now, some of it might be, but I'm telling you now, it's not." And then all of a sudden, I said, in my mind, I'm like, "Come on, show us." And all of a sudden, within about 30 seconds to a minute, there were hundreds on this screen, and I said, "Tell me that's dust now," and he just looked.
Yeah,
Just smiling. So yeah, quite often you can go to places and you just get the feel as though there's somebody there. And quite often, when being where I am here, because this is where I tend to do a lot of my teachings and my sittings. Sometimes I leave the door open to my office, and when I do, every so often, not all the time, but every so often, I'll sort of just be pulled, and I just get the feeling of like, oh, there's somebody there, there's somebody watching me. So sometimes, it's not even just in a church; it can be in many different places. So yeah, definitely.
Steve says, I've noticed. Sorry, have you noticed that there is a RIE period between someone's passing and them communicating, or do you find that they can communicate almost straight after passing?
Great question, Steve. So again, an example I can give to this is well, there's two examples actually. So there was a lady I was reading for. I was up in Stafford, and I was doing a reading, private reading, and as I this was at 8 o'clock at night. This was so as I'm sat there, the lady said to me at the end of the reading, she goes, "Craig, just before you finish, can I ask you a question?" Fire away. She goes, "Can you tell me, is this a recent passing, or is this something that's been passed for some time now?" I went, "No, actually, do you know what? This is quite recent. In fact, very recent." She went, "Yeah." She goes, "This lady passed away at 10:30 this morning." So literally from passing and making the transition at 10:30 in the morning to then communicating by 8 o'clock at night, for me, absolutely. And there's a friend of mine who another medium, and many years ago now, he was doing a demonstration. As he was working, he turned around and said to this lady, "I've got your mother, this, and this." And she went, "Well, what you're saying is correct." She goes, "But my mom's still alive." She goes, "Because she lives literally just around the corner. I went there before I came here to see you." She went, and so of course the meeting carried on, and she was like, "Yeah, this, and this," and he went, "Okay, that's fine." She said, "But and then all of a sudden somebody else came through, which then she took it. Anyway, after that, the demonstration finished. This lady, I think actually might be in the interval, this lady went round to see her mother, obviously to check and make sure she was still okay. Got to her mother's house, and her mum had actually passed away
Wow.
during the demonstration. So again, that was even less time. So
Yeah.
she went back round to the church and said to the medium, "I have to tell you that yes, you are quite correct. My mother has passed away whilst we've
Yeah.
been at the church."
Yeah.
And so yeah, for me, I wouldn't say that there's any time really.
I know that when my grandpa passed away, it's reasonably young when that happened, we all came back to my grand's house, and there was a stopwatch, a kind of stopwatch you could set for different things, and it was on top of a cupboard where nobody could get to. And when we were all there, it just suddenly started going off the alarm, and it looked like it'd been up there for ages. So for it to actually go off the alarm at that specific time was quite,
Brilliant.
So I really think that was communication.
And believe it as
Um,
well. Absolutely.
uh, will you put my answer to Steve, please? Yes, certainly. Let's have a look. Sorry, Soldier, I was waiting for Steve to finish that, and I was going to get it up. So, Steve, my mum popped over to the Isle of Man to say goodbye to one of my brothers. That couldn't be with us as she passed. So that's I take it that's the question you wanted, Soldier. If there's anything else that I've missed here, please let me know. Is there anything else? I mean, I take it that's something that happens quite regularly. That you know, people that can't pass, they let them know then after.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I just think that the spirit, for me, the spirit world are a world of intelligence, and that was something that was always drilled into us. Even with Tim and Jeanette, they're a world of intelligence. You as mediums, we are connecting to an intelligence. Oh, thank you, Sam. Bless you. And I think for many people, yes, obviously it brings them, the comfort, but it also brings them hope as well, which I think is fabulous. And I think just talking about the subject that we're talking about there, I remember being in somewhere up in North Devon. I can't think where I was now. But I was giving a demonstration. It was an intimate evening, an intimate group I was working with. Anyway, as I was working, there was this lady. As I was working with her, I said to her, I've got this lady who comes through this, and this, and I said, look, she makes me feel as though she's very muddly in all of this. She went, yes. And I said to her, one thing I do want to say to you is, I said, she's making me well. I said, do you understand that your mom has passed away? And she went, no. I went, hang on 1 second. And it turned out that the lady that was coming through was her grandmother, but she was talking about the lady's mom, which would be this lady's daughter. And I said to her about, various things that she understood, which validated what I was saying. I was like, okay. I said, I'm not a doctor or a GP or anything like that. I said, but there's just a feeling here for me that, they're putting their arms around your mom to sort of like give her that upliftment and that healing that she needs. She went, yeah, I understand that. Absolutely. And there were other things that were said. So this was the Thursday. On the on the Monday, I got an email that was picked up. And the email was from that lady who had the reading. And she said to me, she goes, Craig, I came to see you last week and you asked and mentioned about my mum being in the spirit world. At the time, the answer was no. But I have to say to you that after seeing you, my mum had gone back into hospital on Friday, and she passed away on the Saturday morning. And she goes, and I'm just emailing you to actually say thank you, because yes, it's sad, but you also helped me prepare for that loss. You helped me prepare for the loss of losing my mum, and I just thought, you know what, amazing. Because this is somebody who's just lost a significant person in their life and they're reacting in that way. And I think, you know what, beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. Naomi says, Mum passed away tragically. Is she okay now? That must happen a lot from people at the tragic one. And that's the first question people probably come to you with. Are they okay after passing? Yeah. So, yeah.
What I would say to that is, well, first and foremost, I'm very, very sorry for your loss. And I tell you what I will say at this is, this was one of the times I was with Colin, and as I mentioned earlier on, he always gave people the opportunity to ask questions in the second half of his demonstrations. And there was one lady who stood up and asked a very similar question, and she turned around and she goes, Colin, she said, that lady just next to me there, she went, her mom has come through tonight and told her that she's okay. She went, why hasn't my mom come through? And at the time, Colin stood there and we chatted about it afterwards. He said to me, I just didn't know how to answer it. He said, I've never been asked that question before. He said, it's a great question. He said, but I've never been asked it before. And in the end, he turned around and he said, you know what, sweetheart? He said, I don't have the specific answer that you're wanting to know why she hasn't come through. But what I can say to you is, if that lady's mom has come through to tell her daughter that she's okay, and that her mom's in the spirit world, which is where your mom is, so they're in the same place, just because your mom hasn't come through tonight to talk to you directly, one thing you can take from it is that if that lady's mom is okay, and your mom is also okay because they're in the same place as well. And I think, you know what, again, such a wonderful answer, and really it's true as well. So yeah, to answer your questions, I would certainly say that yes, she will be absolutely fine in the spirit world, definitely.
That's lovely, and yes, I'm really sorry as well that happened to you, Naomi. Also want to say, hope that you're feeling, because Claire put up there she's not feeling so well. She is quieter than usual. That's fine. I'm thank you for being here. I hope you're feeling better soon. Gillian has joined us, and thank you. I think there's some other ones we're going to get to. I'm just going to get Joe's question up here, then we'll go to the video that I've got lined up of Craig working, but we'll just ask this one, because it has popped up a few times, so it's not that I'm ignoring you, Joe. I do apologise for it not coming up. It's just kind of difficult when you're doing it. But Paul and Craig, do you believe that people can communicate with you whilst they are in a coma?
My answer is yes. So again, if I may, just share two quick things. So I remember reading for, again, I was in Warsaw in the Midlands. I was doing giving a private reading to somebody, and as I was working, there was a lady that I was reading for, and a lady came in from the spirit world, described her and this, that, and the other, and she said to me, she went, Craig, yeah, she goes, but everything you're saying leads to my mother-in-law. She goes, but she's still alive. I went, right. She goes, well, she was this morning when I left. I said, no. I said, I'm very much, and there was like this, and this, and this. She went, yes, because she has, I can't remember what it was that she had. I don't know if it was like, don't want to say dementia, but there was something. She said, but she's in a coma. I was like, okay. And she goes, and then I said, okay, one second. I said, she's taken me to the room where she is. I said, I know that I'm not in hospital. And I described the room that I was being given from the spirit world. And she went, that's the bedroom that she's in at home with my husband right now. She goes, are you telling me that she's passed? I said, I don't know. I'm just telling you what I'm getting. So anyway, we tried to then sort of, find out and work it out. Was it, wasn't it? Anyway, she made a phone call back home to her husband, and her husband says, no, I've just been in. She's absolutely fine. She's, she's like out of it, but she's there. She's okay. Still breathing, and all that. She had like monitors and everything. And I thought, that is just mental. And I remember, I saw it online, but I've had the pleasure of meeting John Edward, the American medium, if anybody's heard of him. And I've met John several times. Brilliant guy, really, really nice guy. And we chatted about this. And I asked him a similar question, and he brought it up with something else that I saw. And he said, he said it was the one time I was doing a demonstration for 18 people in Queens, New York. He said, and I was giving this lady a message from her mother, and she turned around and said that everything I was saying was correct. At the end of the reading, he said, I turned around and said to the lady, he said, you know what? The only things that I didn't get from your mom was, one, how she passed and when she passed. And he went, as quick as a flash, the lady I was reading for turned around and said, that's because she hasn't passed yet. He went, whoa, hang on, stop. And he turned around and said to this lady, he goes, yeah. He said, how's this possible? And basically it turned out that she'd been in a vegetative state for a couple of months. And basically, I say a couple of months, probably exaggerating there, but she'd been on a life support machine and in that vegetative state. So yeah, to answer your question, Joe, I do believe it. Some people don't, but at the end of the day, we talk about communicating with the higher realms. We talk about communicating with the spirit world, than being a world of intelligence. I think anything's possible, to be honest.
I've just seen Gillian's before we go to the video, because I think that sometimes it's important to ask these questions before I go up and I lose them. Craig, can you tell me if my nephew Dean is at peace now? He committed suicide. I'm really sorry, Gillian, in October 2020, and would love to give him, mum, and 8 children a message. I mean, I don't know if you kind of work, but I know you do readings and things for people. So I wouldn't want to put any pressure on you right now, Craig, or anything.
Yeah, no, I will be honest. So again, first of all, yeah, I'm very sorry to hear that. I think, when somebody passes away, when we're kind of preparing for it and we're expecting it, it still hurts. There's still a loss there. But when somebody passes in a tragic way like this, I wouldn't want to begin to sort of know how the family feels, because I've not been there, and I think it's a tough one. But what I would say is, yes, to answer your question first and foremost, Julian, yes, he will be at peace now. I again, very openly and honestly, being in my book, I understand that mindset, having been there myself, so I understand. However, I believe that he will be at peace, and for anybody who has passed in that way, I do believe they're at peace. And one thing I will make very, very clear is, I was told quite a few years ago that apparently other mediums, when I was in the Midlands, this was a friend of mine had been to see another medium, and that this other medium told her that when somebody takes their own life, let's say they take their own life when they're 25, but they shouldn't pass until they're 75. Apparently, they go to some sort of like waiting room or another level for the rest of that 50 years before they can actually go and see their loved ones that have gone before them. I have to say, it is utter tosh, in my opinion, because I have people that frequently come through and connect with me who have passed in that way, that they've accepted responsibility for their own passing. So for me, yes, he will be at peace. He will be surrounded by the love, the joy, the warmth of loved ones that have gone before him, and they would have welcomed him with open arms, is what I would say to you there, 100%. But personally, I don't have an actual message from him. I'm not becoming aware of anybody whilst I'm talking, but I just hope that helps a little bit.
I'm sure that helps, and that was really nice, and I'm sorry that. What I'll do now, I shall play the video. I'm going to speak about Joe, Soldier's next question, and another question from Joe, but I'll play this video first because it's absolutely fantastic of Craig working, and you can see the full videos on Craig's YouTube channel as well. So let me just get this up.
Understand this for me, please. Okay, I love it when people are doing it for you. So tell me what you don't understand then.
What's the tip of the finger? Who's that? Is that somebody?
Right, so the gentleman, forget the lady for now, the gentleman that steps in there for me, he keeps making me feel like I'm hearing the names John/Jack. They're the names that I'm hearing in my mind. As he comes in there for me, I don't feel like I'm that old when I pass, and I feel as though as he steps in there for me, thank you. As he steps in there for me, he makes me feel like it was all of a sudden.
It was a heart attack.
Right, let me tell you. It's okay. But I know that as he steps in there for me, like I say, unexpected, weren't expecting him to pass then. And it's where he's connected, where somebody would have lost the tip of a finger. Not saying that it's him, but there would be a memory link to somebody losing the tip of a finger.
That's the bit I don't get, because the tip of the finger is something that's happened this week.
That's fine. That might be my way to get to you, you see. So what they're doing is they could be talking to somebody to validate to where I need to get to.
Okay.
But everything else I'm saying, you understand to be true?
Yes.
Right. Thank you very, very much. It just didn't feel right there. So let me just keep on working with yourself, if I may. Is that okay?
Yes.
So now the lady that's next to you, she was pointing to both of you. So are you both connected?
Sisters.
Right. Then I should know that, shouldn't I? I know. Let me keep on going now. But the gentleman that comes through for me makes me feel like he wouldn't have necessarily believed in this.
Definitely
I don't
not.
see him as somebody. I was chatting to one of Roy's crew earlier on. He's just said, "What a load of old so-and-so," in a good way. And I get the same feeling from this gentleman as well.
Yes.
And I've got to tell you, as he comes in, I feel like I'm a grafter. I feel like I'm a working man as he comes in my life there. You understand that for me?
Yes.
But he makes me feel as though, don't let people take the biscuit. But I feel like I need to say that to you, if I may. Now,
Okay.
I don't want to say I'm somebody who would F and Jeff all the time, but I feel like there would be one or two colourful words that would fall out my mouth with this man. You understand that for me?
Not sure.
Well, that lady's saying yeah. Let me just keep on going with it because it feels right as I'm working with it. But I just know, as he also comes in there for me, he gives me the feeling where he takes me 2 weeks before he passes, 2 weeks before he passes, where he talks about being under the weather. Talks about being under the weather. And again, as I said earlier on about her mother, oh, don't make a fuss, I'll be all right. It's only a cold or it's only this. You understand that for me?
Yes, definitely.
And there's something here as well where I feel like I want to pull the blame from somebody. So somebody feels like they should have. When they show me that, it makes me feel as though somebody felt though they should have seen something or should have seen a sign of some sort. Do you understand that for me?
I do actually,
I feel
yes.
as though there's a sense of guilt that comes from there. But he's also making me feel as though that wherever he was when he passed, there was also somebody else that was nearby as well.
Yes, that was correct.
Because he keeps talking about not being on his own when he passes. That's how he makes me feel. Whether I'm in the spot on my own when I pass, but I know that there's somebody else that's nearby to me.
Yes, that's right.
And he's also on about 4 children that are significant to him. 4 children. Do you understand that for me?
Definitely 3.
Then I see my next part was going to be what I said to this lady. I need to say 4 children, but would you understand?
Yes, that's correct, actually.
Do you understand?
Yes, do.
Right, I'm still going to say this next bit anyway, but would you know where, again, because I said it there and I can't let it go because it's still in my mind, where somebody lost a child?
Yes.
They're making me feel as though, because he's telling me the child's here.
Yes.
But he's also telling me as well that even, I still need to say to you that when I'm going to tell him that in a minute, would you understand where he would have smoked at one point in his life as well? But do you understand, there's a point where he tells people that he's stopped smoking.
Oh, yes.
And he tries to hide it. And
yes.
He showed me my granddad, you see, because my granddad said, oh yeah, I'll stop. From going from 60 a day to stopping, do us a favour.
He used to smoke in the bathroom.
They found empty things, or they found tobacco bits dropped on the floor, and that's what I'm seeing with this gentleman, you understand?
Yes.
I've got to tell you, as he comes through, he feels very protective, and for me, that's like a father figure to you. That's the way he comes through for me. You understand that?
Yes.
He keeps wanting me to celebrate in the month of September as well, so I know there's a celebration in the month of September, and he keeps talking about where one of you keeps seeing robins in the garden.
Oh my God.
Oh, that's good. I'm
But
glad you're
we're
here.
all going to say that, aren't we? Robins.
Do you understand that for me?
I do, totally.
Right, marvellous. And which one of you was it that put your orders in and said you better come through tonight and let us know you're here, even though you don't believe it? Right, then one of you, whether it's yourself then, would you understand where it's yourself that was talking to his photo but you're on your own?
No, that's not that.
Okay,
No.
he's making me feel as though somebody's moved a photograph of him from one space to another. A photo of him has been moved from one space to another.
I don't know.
Possibly is better than no. Let me go with you then. I've got to get it right here for me. Doesn't bite you. Then would you understand? I've still got to say it. There's a photograph that's been moved from one space to another, and somebody talks to a photo. Whether it's in your own way, shape or mind or whatever, whether it's just through thought, but in your mind you see the photograph of Dad and you know that he's there and you want to talk to him.
No, it's I speak to his wife in a photo.
Oh.
So that's my granny, and he was my granddad.
Okay, so forgive me, I've got it wrong. So he's not Dad, but he still comes through as that figure to you.
Oh. Yeah.
As long as
yes.
you understand that for me, because I can't lie to you, I've got to tell you the reason why he's coming through and how he comes through that way. So, right, okay, so forgive me. So it is a photograph that you talk to, just not a photograph of him. Mm-hmm. Okay, I got it wrong. We'll put my hands up, eh? That's what I'll do. I'm not going to lie to you. I feel like Gavin and Stacey. I won't lie to you. Is anybody from Wales? Yeah, from Wales. The door people. That was a terrible Welsh accent. Right, but I know as he comes through, again, as I'm laughing and other people are laughing at, I know he's got that good sense of humour that I need to acknowledge. And I feel like I need to be saying to all of you, I don't know how you're all connected, but he wants to put a smile back on your faces. He wants to put this smile back on your faces. He also acknowledges for me a birthday. When he passed, it was either just after or there was a birthday coming up.
Okay.
Do you understand that for me?
I'd have to check that, but yeah.
Please do. But he takes me back to February as well to be significant as well. Bless you. He takes me back to February to be significant.
Okay.
So I know that there'll be a birthday anniversary in that month there within the family. Do you understand? One second. Do you understand where there's an Alsatian dog that would be in the spirit world? Because all of a sudden the dog's just come barking in there. As soft as anything, but I'm playing with the dog, lovely. Weird. No. What's the connections to the police? No, then I'll have that back then, because somebody else might have this one. She's gone, no, I don't want that. Trust me with what I'm going to say, you don't. That's fine. But I've got to tell you, as this gentleman comes through, and I know I said Dad, and that's how I'm going to stick at it. I know you've told me he's grandfather, and that's fine, but he still comes through in that sense. It just makes me feel like he's glad that you've all got each other, but he's looking at all of you. He's glad that you've all got each other, because the others, I feel like, whoever the others are, I want to wash my hands of. I don't know who it is, but I want to wash my hands of it. You know that he liked to tipple as well. You know he liked to drink. Right, because all of a sudden I feel like I'm drinking a pint of dark mild or something like that, but then I've got a whiskey afterwards that I want to be having.
You know, I might have my dad.
Oh. But would you know, and I don't want to say an alcoholic, but would you understand where
Yes,
it runs
definitely.
in the family?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah? Right, then your dad pops in to say hello to you. With an empty
Cheers, Dad.
glass. That's fine. You understand where, so forgive me, like, so there is alcoholism that runs in the family?
Yes.
Right, no, genuinely, just so that I know that I'm still talking to you, that's fine. But I've got to tell you, the man that steps in first, he's the one that wants to do all the talking. Not that we're pushing that man aside, your father, but just now that he pops in to say hello. And with that, take the love, the warmth that he comes through with.
Thank you so much, thank
One
you.
of you almost didn't come tonight.
Yeah.
Right, okay, because he's just saying, and just before you go, tell him that I'm glad they've all come.
Oh.
Glad that they've all come. So with that, take the love, take the warmth, and most of all, take the laughter that he comes through with. Thank you very, very much for working with me.
Wonderful. So I hope you agree that was truly, truly wonderful to see some hearts coming through here. Yeah, I've got here, Paul, I joined late. Can you please tell me if Craig has any books out to buy? So you did mention that earlier on, but if you're happy to say again now for Gillian, who's watching.
So sorry for those that have already listened to this, but yes, I do, Gillian. So my very first book was published last year in September. So here for a good time, not a long time. It's available. You can go onto my website, you can order it, and I've actually got some that I've got to take out to be posted tomorrow. So if anybody does want a copy, if you order it tonight or first thing in the morning, I can then take it and be posted before we hit the road tomorrow. So yes, there we go.
Lovely. Funny enough, we were talking about this, Craig, just right at the beginning before we started. What are your thoughts reincarnation?
I have to say I'm very open to it. I think I've read too many stories and I've watched documentaries on this about when somebody believes that they've lived before, and the first one was of a young boy in America, and he was so into his aeroplanes, but not the planes that we know of today, or the 747s. He was interested in the old warplanes like the Spitfires and those types of aircraft that they used in the war, and he used to be able to name them. He used to have this knowledge of knowing what they were, how fast they could go, how high they could fly, and all of this. And one day, his dad said, how do you know so much? He went, well, this was the plane that I was flying when I died. And his dad was, what do you mean? He said, when you died? He said, well, I died on this day, and that's what I was flying. It was on this day, this time. This was my name, and this, that, and the other. And also, his dad then looked into it, and it turned out to be true. And he was able to then name. He was then able to name other people that died in the same war. And I think one of the more famous ones. Yeah, absolutely. But I think now one of the more famous ones was so an American doctor flew over from the States to Scotland, and I think I want to say Glasgow, to a small town outside of Glasgow, and it was because this young boy said to his mom one day at home, said, "When can I go home? When am I able to go home?" And she said, "You are home?" He went, "No, I fell and I came here to you," and she was like, "No, you've always, this is where you belong." And anyway, he went, so got to the nitty gritty of the facts and everything. And he said, this was where I lived. This was in all of this. Described his house, where he was, and everything. And it turned out he was from the island of Barra. So if anybody's heard of the island of Barra, if you don't, it's one of many. Well, I say one of many. One of the only airports I know where you actually land on the beach. using the Twin Otter, and so they flew across the Barrow, landed there. They went walking, and they got to the house and said, "This is where I live." He said, "When you go in, you'll see this, 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 and this, etc." And yeah, anyway, and then he took them to the point and to the place where he fell, and yeah, well, the rest was history, really. So he was able to give that information, that evidence, that was then able to be validated after some research. So yeah, I'm very much open to it, definitely. And like you said, we were chatting about it before, so yeah.
Absolutely. There were lots of. I'm going to get to Gillian's soon, but I just wanted to, when we're watching it, because there's a little bit of time delay on stream, to get some hearts from that.
No problem.
Beautiful to hear these connections. Very good. Amazing video, Craig. I love how humorous spirits can be. Do you think that they're purposely doing that for their family because they know it can be upsetting, or is it kind of like, you know? So yeah, is that one of the reasons for spirits being humorous when they come, to kind of make it more pleasant for the families, or is there just that they really just are really enjoying themselves?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of different factors to sort of look at there. I think it comes down to the individual or the individuality of the medium, and the the sort of humour that the medium has, because and personality, because for me, I mean, you can see I like a laugh and I like a giggle, and I always say to people at the start of a demonstration, listen, when loved ones come through, if you had a grandmother who was a bit like Mrs. Brown at Mrs. Brown's Boys, and she used some colourful words, and that's how she was in life, the likelihood is that's how she's going to come through. But if you had a granddad who's a miserable old so-and-so, the likelihood is that's how he's going to come through. Some people have this thought that when a loved one passes, all of a sudden they grow a halo and that they become angels. Well, it's just simply not the case. They still take that personality with them. They don't change, just because they go to the spirit world. So for me, and like I said, I mean, there's one of my other dear friends, Billy Cook, who I've had the pleasure of working with many times. And I always love watching him work, because I remember one night we went to Hensford Spiritualist Church, and he was doing a dem, and it was the first time my parents got to see him work, and we took a friend of ours with us, and she just lost her son very, very recently. I said nothing to Billy. And anyway, as we were there, he was on the one side of the church. He's like laughing, joking, giggling because of everything that was coming through. And then the next, he went, 1 second, he went, somebody over here has lost a boy. So he's gone from like laughing, giggling to 1 second, somebody here has lost their son. And then our friend says, I have. He went, I'll be back with you in a second. Came back, and then boom, back into that energy, the fun, the humour and everything. Finished that message off lovely, went to the lady, went to our friend and said, I have your boy with me. He's here to say hello. And the energy that came through was just kind of going from one end of the spectrum to the other. It was amazing. So it also, for me, also comes down to the medium themselves. If there's somebody who has a good sense of humour, again, another friend of mine, Tony Stockwell, some of you might know, he, again, has a wonderful sense of humour when he works. It's just, and you know what the thing is, when I see that when I get to go and watch other mediums and there's humour into it, let's look at it this way: your loved ones, everybody, when they come through, they want to see you smiling and laughing and giggling, surely. So that's the whole point of it. So yeah, I think so.
Yeah, absolutely. We didn't mention Billy, so I think that would be nice to sort of talk a little bit about more Billy. I'll just read this one out. It's somebody new. Seago guitarist. I hope I'm saying that right, as I say, I'm dyslexic. Hi, Paul. Lots of friends on the other side. Too many, in fact. It's comforting to know that they stay connected on some level. Much respect to you both. Thank you so much for that. Anthony's here and says hi too. If I've missed anybody's questions out, because there's a few I'm looking back onto. Gillian, I did see one with you saying sorry you joined late. Do watch this on catch up afterwards, and thank you for joining when you did as well. So would you want to talk about Billy? Because I've mentioned all the wonderful other mediums, and you mentioned a little bit about Billy now, but your first kind of interactions and connections with Billy, please.
Yeah, so we were down in Loo in Cornwall. It was Colin's weekend, and Billy was doing one of the main demonstrations on the Friday night, kick-starting the weekend off, and that's where I first met Billy properly. Then after that, got to meet him when he used to come to the Midlands. He used to stay with Tim and Jeanette, so I used to go and see him there and watch him and everything. And then he introduced me to a couple of different churches and centres down in the southwest, Cornwall and Devon. And one point I was down there and I was working at Paignton Spiritualist Church, and I stayed with Billy. He looked after me, bless him. And from there, I remember that trip, and I said to him, you know what, it's beautiful down here. I could live down here. He said, well, why don't you move then? I said, yeah, okay. Anyway, within 12 months of me making that statement, it happened. So of course I moved down there, and since moving down there, Billy became one of my closest friends because I'd see him all of the time. I'd see him through, whether it was on a FaceTime call or if it was, pop round to his firm. Quite often, my other Wayne, my hubby, he's a bus driver, so quite often there'd be nights where he would finish late. So I'd call Billy and say, "What are you doing for dinner tonight?" And then straight away he'd just say, "What would you like?" And so I'd sort of say to him what I would like. He's like, okay, no problem. Be around at this time. So I'd go around and have my dinner and everything. But, so not only have we become like really good friends, but he's also helped me on my journey as well a lot, I have to say, because, there's been many times where, there's been challenges that I've faced through my mediumship. And he has... like I'd call him and he'd just say to me, "What's up?" The first thing he'll say to me on the phone, if he knows there's something wrong, he'll just say, "What's up? Talk to me, tell me." And so he's there for that. But he's obviously he's introduced me to lots of other people, churches, centres, etc., which has been brilliant. So yeah, and like I say, we get the opportunity to work together every so often as well. And you know what? It's always a pleasure because when you're on the road. And spending quite a lot of time on your own, it's a lonely place. It really is a lonely place. Whether you're a medium or whether you're doing something else, if you're on your own, it can be lonely. So when we get to share the opportunities in life, and the opportunities to work together, we take them because it's good fun. It's good fun. So yeah, he's great, and of course I talk about him in the book as well. So yeah,
fantastic. Leah is joined us, and Jennifer. There's a few other questions, but there's something that I've been told by people that I do know that are very sensitive, have a lot of ability. A number of people told me that. They said, "Well, I'd love to work and communicate with spirit more and do platforms or reading one-to-ones, but I'm just not good enough." I've heard that so many times from people, and people that maybe feel they're not good enough. Just some words of encouragement to give them the push to go to development circles and to believe in themselves a bit more.
I think I always remember. Years ago when I was a travel agent, I was working for an Australian company, and great company, mostly great people as well, I have to say, just in case some of them are watching, which I doubt, but mostly great people. I remember there was a couple of other jobs that I used to go for, and I used to go into these interviews for these jobs thinking, jobs that I always wanted to do. And I used to go in there thinking, I'm not going to get this. I'm not going to get this. And all of a sudden, when you realise, of course, you get later on in life, you realise that, well, when you're putting that thought out there, the likelihood is you're probably not. When you tell yourself you can't do something, you're not going to do it, you might as well just stop. And I always say to people, especially when they turn up to my workshops, I had one, was it last year? Might have been before the lockdown, actually. Somebody walked into my workshop and said, "Right, I can't do this, and this, and this, and I struggle with this." I'm like, "Right, so would you like your money back now and then go home?" And she just looked at me like a little bit bewildered, as if to say, what are you saying that for? I'm like, so I tell you what, walk out the door, come back in with the idea in your mind that you can. Even if you can't, you're stepping into this place today to tell yourself that I am going to learn something, I am going to evolve, and I am going to expand my awareness and my knowledge. So that when you leave today, you'll leave better with more knowledge and more understanding than what you did when you first arrived. But allow yourself that opportunity. And there was one day, going back to my original point now, there was one day I'd gone for the job as with the airline, and I remember watching a video that they showed us, like a typical day in the life of cabin crew. And I remember watching this aeroplane, this Thomas Cook 757, taking off. And I just remember watching that video, and I sat there, and in my mind I thought, I'm having this. I'm having it. This is mine. In my mind, I kind of just looked round at the room. Nobody obviously knew what I was thinking. I'm just thinking, news light can get behind me, because I'm telling you now, this today, I'm having it. And I had that, and I put that intention there. I had that mindset, and of course I got it. So I think for myself, I always say to people, tell yourself that you can and you will. So for those people that maybe think that they're perhaps not good enough, or when one thing I do here is when I hear people say, oh, I'd love to be as good as that, or I'd love to be as good as them, I'm like, no. Let's look at it this way. Okay, you may want the confidence and, to be as comfortable as that medium when they are up on the platform. But here's the thing. Always remember to be yourself. You can't be anybody else. You might like other mediums, and you might like the way that they work, and you might nick one or two of their ideas naturally and the way that they work, but you can only be yourself, and you have to put your own personality into your mediumship, because only then, when you put your own personality into your own mediumship, your mediumship then comes alive. That's when you take that next step, because you can only be yourself. And far too often I've watched and I've seen when people there's one or two that I can think of. I remember watching one medium, and he basically sort of mimicked another famous medium, and he struggled. And I thought, I thought afterwards, if you were just to be yourself and not mimic other mediums, that would have been a whole different story. So that's why I say to people, just be yourself, and go with the mindset that you can, and I promise you, you will.
Yeah, that's brilliant advice. And the mind stops each other. Stops you reach potential. So I think that it's so important to get your mind right before doing this work. And what you said, I think, will help people. Jennifer said she lost her daughter. I'm really sorry to hear that. And also, I got Patricia has said, my dad died when I was little, and he's never sent a sign or come through. Could he have moved on to another life and forgotten me? I wouldn't think so. I wouldn't think that a dad would forget. But do you have anything to add to that?
It kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier on with the lady that comes to see me for a reading in the Midlands. Sat there, her dad came through, and at the end she said to me, she said, thank you for that. She said, because I've waited 29 years for that message. She said, I've been to see umpteen mediums through my life. She goes, he's never come through. She goes, you are the first person that's ever been able to connect and bring my dad through. So definitely hasn't forgotten you. And I say that to everybody that's listening. Your loved ones will never, ever forget you, because they're always going to be there. You have these memories and that love, and that is the one thing that binds the two worlds and binds you and the loved ones and the spirit world together stronger and stronger every single day. And it'll be the same for them. They'll still be around. They'll let you know that they're around. But one thing I would say is, and I said it earlier on, I don't have all the answers. I wished I did, but if I was to have all the answers, I'm sure I'd be locked up somewhere to keep my head stum. But definitely hasn't forgotten. Definitely not.
Absolutely. We've got Mandy here. that mentions about be aware of energy vampires. Life should be about give and take, or you find around you just people taking and leaving you empty. You have to try and protect yourself by backing away from them emotionally. Do you do much in the way of protecting from negative entities? And also as well, I mean, you know, have you ever had any mischievous spirits you had to protect yourself from when doing platform that haunt a particular
Not really.
play?
Not really. Do you know what? It's more. It's for me. It's more the living that you have to worry about than the spirit world. You know, when I'm working, yeah, quite often. When I work, the spirit world know when I'm getting ready to work, because I'll sit, I'll meditate, I'll send up a little thought, my intention, my prayers, ready to work, and but once I'm done, that's it. I'm done, and the spirit world know that I'm done. So it's and they understand that. So there has to come a point, of course, when we do this, that we have the discipline within our mediumship, that, you know, we, and when Mandy was just saying there about, you know, people about just taking and taking and taking and leaving you empty, like emotionally. I think what happens is, you know, there has to come a point where don't be afraid to say no to people. There has to be a healthy balance, and I think sometimes, you know, I understand it to an extent, that people message you and they want to speak to you because they want to know that their loved ones are okay, that they're okay, and all of this. But there also has to be a healthy balance. And I remember a few years ago, I was down in London, and we were due to be doing some filming. And whilst I was down there, 11 o'clock at night, I'd arrived because I'd been doing a demonstration somewhere, got into Essex, set up for the night, and all of a sudden my phone rang just after 11 o'clock, 10 past, quarter past 11, and this lady called and she said, can I book a, she goes, is this the medium? I went, yes. She goes, can I book a reading? I went, no. And she says, why not? I said, because it's quarter past 11 at night. I said, if you think it's appropriate to call me at quarter past 11, then you probably no. I tell you what, call me tomorrow morning, anytime after 10 o'clock and before 6 o'clock, and we'll get something sorted. And I didn't hear from her. So now, so as that my phone doesn't keep going on and ringing all the time, I actually have it go on divert from 6 o'clock. So anybody who tries to get hold of me isn't going to get hold of me. But now it's kind of different, because now I tend to have a couple of people looking after the bookings and things like that for me, so it's not too bad. So it's not as bad as it was. But you do have to have the balance, healthy balance as well.
Exactly. I can't believe it's gone so quickly. We're coming to the end of our 90 minutes, and sorry for those of you that I haven't asked the questions for. Firstly, what I'm going to ask you first is just to give a quick mention out where people can get hold of you, and also as well a quick mention to some of the workshops that you do. And if you go on Craig's website as well, you'll see all the tour dates of places going to. But if it's anything particular that is coming up you want to mention before the end of tonight's live.
Well, I'm going to be, so tomorrow, so I hit the road again tomorrow and I'm off to Solihull. But this coming weekend, I'm going to be in Reading. Reading National Spiritualist Church. So Friday night we have a demonstration. Saturday is a workshop, and then the private readings on Sunday morning have sold out. But I know that the church are raising funds and awareness for a charity. I can't remember the name of the charity. It's an animal charity, which is fabulous. So you know, if anybody's in that area, come along. Where else am I going to be? On the 31st of July, just before I break up for the summer, I'm doing a virtual workshop. Again, all the details are on my website for that. Places are limited, so if anybody, there's literally about 2 or 3 spaces left for that, if anybody would like to join us. And where else? So if anybody would like to join us in person for a weekend, we will be heading to a place called Hackney Coed, which is in the Brecon Beacons, just near, not too far from Swansea. It's a wonderful place, wonderful spiritual retreat. We start on Friday the 16th of September and we leave after breakfast on the 19th. So we have an evening session, a workshop on the Friday, all day Saturday, all day Sunday, and as I say, we leave on Monday morning. And what I would say is for that, with all your teachings, your accommodation, your food, everything included, 299 quid. So if you want to come and join us, that's September. Again, only a few spaces left for that. So, but there's loads that I could talk about. The best thing to do, head to the website, and everything is on there.
Absolutely. Again, loads of really positive things from tonight. Let me just pull up a few. So Joe says, love tonight. Thank you once more, and thank you, Craig. Annie says, brilliant night, lads. Thank you. I'll be looking in Warsaw area. Craig, thanks, Paul, your star. Oh, thank you. Let's pull one more up of here. Soldier, and there's more thank yous. So thank you, everybody that said thank you. Excellent guest, Paul. Well done, Craig. It's been a pleasure listening to you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Excellent. Next week will be Jenny from Haunted Cornwall and Paranormal Voice, it's known as now, so that'll be next week's guest. Is there anything really important, connection with the spirit world, that I haven't asked you that you think would be a lovely little thing to end the show on?
You know, at the end of every demonstration, I always say to people, for those people that haven't been able to get around to pass on a message from a loved one, I always apologise and always say, I'm very sorry, but I hope you're able to take something away from it. And again, as I said to one of your viewers earlier on, saying that, our loved ones all go to the spirit world. They're in the same place. They're all well. They're all okay. But I always say to people, one message that I can share with everybody is, as the title of the book, we're here for a good time, not a long time. But most importantly, friends, remember, we're here for a good time, not a long time. But remember, eat the cake, drink the wine, and drink the beer. Who cares? You are not carrying the coffin. For heaven's sake, friends, just enjoy life. That's what it's about.
Brilliant. What a brilliant way to end. Thank you, Craig. I just say, because I realise you're on the road tomorrow, so just after this, it will literally just be 5 minutes, just instead of just like, right, that's it, we're gone. So we'll just stay on if that's cool. Thank you everybody for watching. Big thank you to Craig, and what a fascinating insight this has been, and thank you so much for sharing it with you.
Thank you.
Whatever you're doing, day or night, have an outstanding day, night, evening, and I'll see you next week. Thank you, everybody.